Was there one factor that you can point to that warrants an extension with a 13-35 record?
I think the one factor is when you take all the factors into account that that shows that we are making progress. And I know for most people, and it's understandable, for most people, you have, whether it's 7 home game snapshots or whatever were televised on the road snapshots, or you see on the computer snapshots, they're not, those final snapshots are not in the position that you want them to be in, and they're not the position we want to be in. But that's what that is. When you peel back the different layers, all the different layers, and that's really what I've spent the last whatever days doing, and even going into this last weekend, had already started that process and tried to be as thorough, because it's very, decisions like this are very important, very critical to our overall athletic program, our university, those things. To do it otherwise is irresponsible. And so if you were to point to one thing, it's the combination of all those things pointing towards, it's not the time to say, I'm going to cut and run, I'm going to walk away. And so I think that'd be the response.
The extra year, I mean, you could have easily just let him play his contract out. What kind of, was it the same evaluation that prompted the extra year? Or was it would you want more security in that job? Well,
I mean, continuity, if you're moving the right direction, is always important to any aspect of what any of us do. But the fact is, this was never about Bob and his staff. They've got a role, a function, a responsibility. It's about this program and how important that this program is to the overall program, and to let that program linger in doubt or hang out to dry, or whatever term you want to use, is not in the best interest or health of that program. So once we had made the decision to stay the course, then do the things that help reinforce that. So it played in that way.
Were you afraid that it perhaps would hurt you in recruiting?
Well, I think there's no doubt. I think there's no doubt this group, one of the things, and I'll go back for a minute, and say, even before Bob, I know where we started when I came back here in December of '05, and then in January of '06. Just to give you a recent snapshot, and kind of the picture that I have to look at beyond those 12 snapshots is, I had our staff by that time had been cut in half, as well as our athletic program. We were 108 people. We were 54 people. In order to have one recruiting weekend in January of '06, I had this entire staff, our spouses, families, out here working in these flower beds, in this building, so we could make this place presentable to recruit that first class that hit ground here in '07. Those were our seniors this year. That's what had to happen. That's where this program's been. And it started there. Bob came in, honored as I required of him, in his first class, 12, I believe, of 16. He got to add 4 or 5 to it. I believe 10 of those 12 didn't stay, that I made him honor the commitment to, didn't stay the course. And so his first class hit ground in '08, and then '09, and then this year's 10. I think the number I saw in there was something like 36 or 35 of those were recruited to give that group of young men the chance to develop, get stronger, faster, and the things you have to do to compete in college football. So we've gone through that process, and to now junk that process, disrupt it, and go a different direction only takes us back. If I'd seen other factors that said, you know what, you're right about that, but there's these other things going on. I evaluated every aspect, from academics to compliance to results in the weight room, to all the things that we say are necessary to have the type of program we want here. And none of those factors said that track, that plan wasn't taking shape the way we wanted to. So,
how much pressure was there put upon you regarding Bob's future from any outside interest?
Kenny, as you know, I've been doing this for 22 years. There's always pressure and expectations, and the pressure and expectations we put on ourselves, I would tell you, supersede any of those that come externally, and always will. I think we hold ourselves to a high standard, and I believe in that. And so I mean, sure, it's there. But you know what? As we mentioned earlier, there's greater pressures out there in the world on more important things, and understand the importance of this. And when at it, I told somebody, you know what? Other than it happened over about a 72 4-day period, whatever else, it kind of felt like I felt in '03. It was pretty exhausting, but something that I knew that we had to go through because it's too important, again, to this overall program, to this university.
Well, you mentioned '03 and the preservation of the program. Where are you now, looking at it 7 years later, in relation to being able to have a legitimate Division I competitive winning football program?
Well, I gave you a little bit of a backdrop in that, in January of '06, we were all out in flower beds. And we were here with half of a staff and 8 sports programs. In the fall of '11, be here with nearly, if not all, of our entire staff back. I'll be here for the first time since then with 16 programs and all of our student athletes. Now, has the sledding been easy? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But, not everybody's had to go down this path or this course, and I understand that. I'm not using and won't or allow anybody in our building to use that as an excuse. We shouldn't. It's just the factors we've got to overcome. And so we've made progress in that, and we continue to. When you say, well, is it the end result and specific to football, 12 snapshot progress where we want to be? No, we're not there. We know that. I mean, it's every Saturday we're doing it. As hopeful as I am, I also feel every disappointment that every one of our young men, our coaches, our fans, everybody feels, and compounded. But do you walk away from that? And the answer is no, I never have, I never will.
Is it still the belief by you and this university that playing in the Superdome is advantageous at this point?
We came out and said, actually, I think when kind of the reports or news or stories about that we are considering something different, and the one response to that has been, we know the long-term answer for that is no. And it's, that is no indictment of all of the Superdome. In fact, when I wear one of my other hats and as chair of this local organizing committee, I out there, singing the praises of what this Superdome is for this community on a national basis. So it's not about the Superdome, it's about us. And if you go back, and there's been instances in the past you guys know and have been part of too, where part of why I even moved whatever it was, 4, 5, or 6 homecoming events somewhere else was to show ourselves. Maybe it's not just about us. Maybe it's the the setting and the kind of atmosphere that for what we are, and when you compare us not to NFL franchises or Final Fours, but when you compare us to football programs that are at our level. If you look in our league, for example, and see, even my alma mater, who just redid what used to be, for my entire lifetime, a 42,000 seat stadium that I played in and was at a later time responsible for trying to fill, to what is today a 24,000 seat, newly renovated stadium that they don't always fill, even with the run of success they've had. If you use those type of things as benchmarks, or an SMU, those type of things, then that's the barometer and measuring stick we have to look for, and things that would be more conducive for developing what is a collegiate fan base first. I mean, as you guys know and have seen and written and recorded, our students come about 3 times a year. They come always for opening game. They come for homecoming en masse, and they come whenever you see a big name game down there. We've got to figure out ways or create ways for them to come on a consistent basis. So,
is there any further